Go live. There we go. Hello, everybody. As usual, if I could have about, call it 30 seconds just to get everything in a good spot here. Make sure our audio is working, all that jazz. That is a silent stream. That's not a good sign. Oh, it might help if I actually opened the stream. I was looking at the preview and that didn't have volume. All right, good. So just get everything squared away here. We've got our candy board up. We've got our GitHub stream ready. I think that should be enough to at least get us started. So, hello everyone. Welcome back to another week of Future Group Friday. My name is Cheese Doodle. I will be your host as always. And today we're going to be following a similar routine. We're going to start off talking about the candy boards. Oh, let me back up for a second. For those who don't know what this is, Future Group Friday is a weekly stream that I am hosting to talk about development updates and plans for the future for the game tagpro. If you don't know what the game tagpro is, because you're new to all of this, you can find it at tagpro.eu. It is a 4 versus 4 online capture the flag game, free to play live right in your browser. Short games, about 6 minutes, no account needed. Tagpro.eu. So, goal for today, like I said, similar plan. We're going to start with the candy board. We got a good list of requests that came in the past week, so we'll spend some time talking through each of those. Before that, we're going to talk through actual development changes that have happened already. I've got the stream of GitHub updates on my left here, so we'll go through little things there and there's some stuff that's in progress, trying to figure out what's going to be in that next release that's looking like it's going to be a couple weeks from now. So we'll go through that. After that, we're going to go through the questions. I got one question on the Future Group Friday form, so I'm going to put that form in the chat as well. If you have any questions that you would like to ask anonymously, feel free to drop them into this form and I will get a look at them when I can. And then we will wrap up. I'm trying to decide what I want to do for our session today for the building portion. I think what we're going to do is focus on tagpro.eu. And what I mean by that is talking about how and when we would try to integrate this website with the actual tagpro website. So we'll spend some time on that at the end, and that should be our stream for today. So as promised, starting with development updates, I'm going to go back to a week from today, which puts us at January 9. And that would be, yes, okay. So first thing that was done at that time, we have a branch on the way. This should be in the next release. We are expanding on the current ranked leaderboard so that instead of only seeing tier number 1 and the players around you, you will have the opportunity to see every tier and every player in every tier. It's not going to be a super long scrolling list. You're going to be able to click on the tiers and they will show you the players in that tier when you click on it. So that should be in the next release. We had a little bit of testing back and forth on that, trying to figure out the best way to show it and also making sure that the historical seasons also have that information. So if you go back to season 0, you will still be able to see all of the players in every tier. So we'll make sure that that tier list is still present in there. So that branch was started and has had a little bit of back and forth that I'll get to in a moment. Then we've got, what is this? Sorry, I'm reading the description and I don't actually know what this does. I didn't make this branch. It has something to do with, oh, that's right. We found a bug and this took up a good chunk of our week. I don't know if bug's even the right word. We found a timing issue. I guess it's a bug with players at the very end of their ranked games. And so if you are a player who has noticed that occasionally you will be in a game, you're in the joiner and you see that a game is happening and players who you should be playing with are in that game. So just for an easy example, if I'm in tier 1 and I see a game with tier 1 players, occasionally what will happen is that tier 1 game will end. you would then expect to go into a game with all of those tier 1 players, but some or all of them are left behind and are not in the new game that you create. So what that looks like sometimes is that a player got skipped. Maybe they think somebody else took their spot, something like that. That's not actually what's happening. What we found is a very, very tiny timing discrepancy with which at the very, very end of a game, you are supposed to get sent from the game back to the joiner to get matched with a new game. But occasionally, a player was getting disconnected by their local browser fractions of a second. We're talking a couple milliseconds at most before the game process actually shut down. And so what that looked like from the joiner's perspective was that that player had quit the game and was not going to be queuing for another game. So the joiner thought, oh, that person left, they're not playing anymore. I'm not going to wait for them to make the next game. And then it would create that game and it would go and that player would be left behind. But that player didn't do anything wrong. They were just sitting there and their computer was a little bit too fast for the joiner, so they got screwed over just because they left the game too soon. So what we did to fix that, and there was a little bit of discussion about this, how to do it correctly, we decided that the server is going to decide when you disconnect, not the client, which is your browser. So the timing of that should be all controlled by the centralized stuff that knows where everyone is at all times. So there's no unknowns about when someone disconnected or why they disconnected, so that anytime you're in a game, you know that you're coming back to the joiner. The joiner knows to expect you and to wait for you before setting up another game. So it's funny how tiny little things like that can create pretty big problems, because players were getting skipped over and over again for games they thought they should be in. So that should be fixed after the next release. We've got a fix to the joiner page. If you look in the joiner at the bottom left, it's kind of hard to show this quickly, but down here it says like U plus people waiting. The casual updates for that are not very accurate, because if you are queued for casual, you can look at the live player counts that are not this, but the same kind of thing that's in the joiner. This all shows you how many players there are queued, how many players there are playing. But then there's also that message at the bottom that says U plus 5 waiting or whatever, and the numbers weren't agreeing. They weren't always the same numbers. So we tried to look at why that was happening, and we figured it out. We're going to remove those messages from the bottom entirely because they're not accurate, and just have the one up top where you see that drop down. For ranked, we're going to keep that in because it is a little bit different for ranked. For ranked, you might have some players who are in neutral flag, some players who are only in the capture the flag queue. Those and tier discrepancies are not going to be displayed in the top part. They're just going to show total number of players. So if you have 5 players queued for CTF, 5 queued for NF, it's going to show you 10 players, but it's not going to create a game because you don't have 8 players in the same queue. Similarly, you could have 10 players all for CTF, but some of them are tier 1, some of them are tier 6. That's not going to create a game because they're too far apart. So that text in the bottom left is still relevant for ranked, because it tells you how many players you are eligible to be matched with, not just how many players are waiting in the queue with you. So that should be fixed just to clean up the casual part. The rank's going to stay untouched. That will be in the next release. A little more back and forth about the redirecting back to the joiner page, blah, blah, blah. What is this? There was a different bug fix. I just want to confirm what this is before I actually say it. Oh, that's right. If you go to the leaderboard page right now and you click off of leaderboards and you come back to ranked, all of these highlight every single time. We found why that's happening. It's fixed for the next release. That's been bothering me for a while, so I'm glad to have that one behind us. More to do with the full leaderboard. More code review. The map test committee submitted a bug to us about the ranked selection rates. They have I think people know this, they have a bot on Discord that tells them just more information about the rotation, how often certain maps are being picked, what maps they're being picked over. So if you pick one map all the time, but it's always getting picked against the same map, maybe it's not a good reflection of that map against other maps. You know it's better than map number 2, but not map number 3 maybe. So all the head-to-head stats basically are available for them. There was an issue where if season ends and a new season starts, those numbers are not reset at all. So you were getting season 0 data bleeding in to season 1 when they were trying to fetch those stats. So a fix went in just to make sure that we stop checking before the start of the season to not give them old data, essentially. Not that the data doesn't matter, it's just they wanted it to be segmented by season, which I think is fair. So That should be live soon. We have something on the way for an indicator that you are connected to the joiner. So I can't show you guys this without joining a game, but if you're in a game and you look in the top left corner, you know that little green arrow shows up. And then if you click on that green arrow, it turns into a red circle with a square in the middle. So like a go and a stop button, essentially. If it is showing go, that means that you are going to go back into the joiner after this game and you will get put into another game. If you have it at stop, it will send you back to the home page at the end of that game. There is also some more behind the scenes stuff that I'm not going to get into right now about players waiting for other players. I've talked about that in the past. What's changing with that is that if you click the stop button and then click it again, it goes back to a go button. But when you do that, you are not actually connected to the joiner. And so this is a little bit technical, but if you are in a game and you start the game, you are connected to the joiner by default in a casual game, for example. If you click the stop button, the joiner connection is severed, so you're not going to get redirected out of that game into another game no matter what. Even if you click the stop button to turn it back into a go button, you are still not connected to the joiner. So even though you are reconnecting because you want to go back, you are not going to get pulled out of that casual game into a ranked game. So we just added a little indicator to show that you are still connected to the joiner or you are not still connected to the joiner. It's just it looks like parentheses almost around the button. And really all that's saying is that you might get redirected during this game, or if it does not show that, you are just going back to the joiner at the end of the current game. So just a small little visual thing. Not a lot of people will use it probably, but for those who know what it means, it's still good to know. So that's right. Next thing that came in was for tier expansion. So you might have noticed, I think Grant, you saw this. You've used that a few times since Orchid said. Yeah, no, it's a great feature for knowing that's your last game. Definitely click that if you're done. But the indicators that people might not use all that often are knowing that you're connected to the joiner. It's a little more of a niche thing. Most people don't really care. Next thing up that we're working on right now is this expansion scheduled button. So for those who have seen it, if you click on this, it will say that due to an increase in player counts, we are expanding a queue to a different number of tiers. And so we decided to have this warning because we didn't want players to just wake up one day and find that they got dropped down a tier. We wanted them to know a couple days in advance that was going to happen. The problem is the way that we're calculating the number of active players. We have it on a weekly check, so it checks every week how many players have met the cutoff to stay active. Active right now, I think, is like 40 games, maybe 50 games, somewhere around there. 10 per week since the season started. Looks like it's 40 because there's someone below 50. So what's happening is that every week people will play the game more and more. They will get above that threshold. So the number of active players will grow above a certain number. That certain number will say, oh, we need more tiers than the number of tiers that we have now. So it will schedule an expansion for 5 days in the future. But then the week will cross over to a new week and a bunch of players will get lopped off the bottom because they're not active anymore because they're not meeting that 10 game per week with the new cutoff. And so that expansion keeps getting scheduled and then canceled and scheduled and canceled. So you keep seeing this pop up that an expansion is scheduled, but there's no actual expansion happening. That is why we keep seeing that. So what we're doing instead is we're going to switch this system instead of a weekly check. It's still a weekly, that's a bad description. Instead of checking how many active players there are on each given day, we're going to be checking a rolling average. So how many players do we have over the last 5 days on average? And then we just move that one day at a time. So instead of a bunch of players being lopped off, it should keep track of any ebbs and flows in the number of active players. And if they are above that cutoff for those full set of days, then we'll schedule the expansion. We'll know it's going to happen. We don't need to worry about rolling it back. It's really just to stop this from popping up but not actually meaning that an expansion is happening. That's the actual front end change. So a little bit of discussion on how to do that, but I think it's in a pretty good place now. Then we had a new developer added who hopefully will be up and running soon. Got them onboarded last night. And then AFK, oh, that's right, void timing. So is there a way to stop spectating a game without leaving the queue? No, I don't think there is right now because you only have that exit button, which brings you back to the home page. We talked about this when that feature was first added. I think we decided that it wasn't really feasible for where the game was in terms of flow in and out of the games. Like it can be done. It was going to take a lot more effort than we had time for at the time. I think we have a ticket in for that, but feel free to leave a suggestion on the candy board just so we can keep track of it in case I don't have one already. That is something we had wanted to add at some point. We just haven't gotten to it just yet. AFK voiding. So in ranked games, I've talked about this on stream. There were some problems at the start of games with players who are not actually there, going AFK, leaving the game, then the game gets voided. That whole process is taking a little longer than we wanted it to. So what we're doing to address that is really just shortening the time down. So at the start of the game, if you're AFK, it's going to kick you a little bit sooner. It's going to ask your teammates if they want to void a little bit sooner, and it's going to have less time for them to actually vote to continue. So all of that stuff just gets crunched down, which just means that if a player does come back, they need to come back in a smaller window where it's not going to impact the game as much if they do come back. If they come back after that window, the game might have already been voided, and that's it. So you don't have you reduce those situations where a player leaves, the opponent's cap 4v3 once or twice, then that player comes back, and now the team that had 3 players is just at a disadvantage. They don't get anything for it. They're just kind of screwed for that game. We're trying to cut down on those situations that have been happening in ranked. So just reducing the timing of that should be live in the next release. You've got an adjustment to the minigame pre-game timer. So right now, minigames, there are 20 seconds before the minigame actually launches, which is kind of pointless because the whole point of minigames is just to fill your time. You don't want to fill your time just staring at a launching soon thing. So we've cut that down from 20 to 5 seconds. So if you get into a minigame, it should be playing pretty quickly after that. Then we've got a fix to the chat filter. I think people have been noticing this more and more lately. If you say a word and then later on you say a different word, sometimes those 2 words together looks like it's a bad word in the middle. Basically just a fix to stop that from happening so frequently. It's a minor thing. I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want people knowing the ins and outs of the joiner, or sorry, of the filter, but that should be happening less after the next release. So that brings us to today. And obviously we're still working on a bunch of other things in the meantime. We have a lot of branches kind of waiting for review right now, so the next week or 2 might be a little bit slower for actual updates because it's just going to be catching up to all those things I've been talking about and actually finalizing them so that we can get this next release up and running. I personally am hoping for a testing session in the next, call it 10 days, maybe a little more than a week probably from where we're at right now. And then the next release, hopefully within the next week after that. So we're looking at a release in about 2-ish weeks with everything that we've talked about that's going to be ready before the shop, basically. So it's going to be this release. The next release after that should be the shop itself for the initial edition of it. So that is where the development stuff is at. And I think that is good enough for me. So let's shift gears now, head over to our candy board. Talk through some of this. We finished off last week with a small UI thing, which was good. Let's see. When I try to frequently unable to join games, when I try to join a game, regardless of casual or competitive, it goes through to joining and then kicks you to the main page. 75% of the time, it's been an issue for ages. Interesting. Looks like Bash addressed this already. Yeah, it looks like their university is blocking. Okay, it looks like that's been solved already, so I'm not going to worry about that. Option to make your private games spectatable alongside casual and ranked. Oh, thank you, Toppy, for putting this in. Oh, it's Friday. It is Friday. So we talked about this on stream last week. This is a request from Toppy that when you have a private game going, I don't think we have any right now, but when a private game is going, they want the ability to have their private game be displayed with all of the live games. I don't have any problem with that as long as it's a public group. There's no reason for that game to be hidden from everybody else. So we're going to make a ticket for this real quick. There we go. Allow. What's going on here? Oh, there we go. Allow public groups playing private games to be displayed on the live games page. We currently display all active MLTP games as well, which would not be a public group. Yeah, I don't think we can swing that just because, well, I guess we can talk about that in a second. We currently display all active, casual, and ranked games with the ability to spectate each of them at will. Expand on this to allow groups which are set to public, which is actually called discoverable on the back end. Expand on this to allow groups that are set to public to also appear on this list with their own filter option. Yeah, their own filter option. So then what Grant mentioned just now is that Major League, Tag Pro, and other leagues, maybe tournaments, might be using private groups, but they would be using, but it's a private group, but they don't necessarily want that game to be hidden. So I think the challenge here is that you want your group to be hidden from everybody else. Like, you don't want people joining your group, but you do want your game to be visible. And I think I kind of struggle with that, because if you do something like that, you have to hide the group ID, otherwise people can just yoink it and join. But the bigger implication that I think is worse is that if you do that, you're kind of undermining the whole streamer community, because the whole point of a streamer is it's somebody who has access to the group. They get to watch the game that's happening. They get to show that game with commentary to other people. If you allow anybody on the site to watch all of those games, you're going to see a decline in streamers' viewership, which is going to lead to a decrease in engagement, which is going to probably snuff out a good chunk of the streaming community, because why would people pull up a stream if they can just find the game themselves sometimes? So I think I'm against that, just from a health of the community standpoint. I think it's better for streamers to have these someone who isn't already looking for streams more likely to spectate it while in the joiner. Maybe. I think what I prefer to do is honestly just put the stream here and be like, also there's an MLTP game going, here's a stream for it if you want to watch that. Which would be, I don't know if we could really do that. It'd be a little bit different from what we're doing right now, because it wouldn't be players. It would be the card that we have here, essentially. Like that. This loser's streaming, so you can watch. I don't know. I think I'm gonna, my gut's telling me not to do that, so I'm gonna go with no for now. We're gonna stick with the discoverable groups. If they want to make their group discoverable, then it'll show up there. But yeah, that is my inclination as it stands. I guess they could technically bypass that if they wanted to, if they created a private group, set up all the things that they needed to do, assign the teams, and then turn self-assignment off. Then anyone who joined the public group would join into waiting and wouldn't be able to do anything. They would be able to type in group chat though, which is probably a bad thing, so I don't think they would want to do that. Just thinking out loud. I'm going to keep it simple for now. We're going to say that allow groups set to public to also appear on the list with their own filter option. How big is the spectator limit anyway right now? I think it's like 8, which is a really good point, because for some of the larger MLTP streams you get like 30, 40 people, and then for the championships you can get upwards of, Yappa help me out, it was like 80, 90 I think. We've crossed 100 before. I'm not sure if that's happened the last couple seasons, but definitely more than we allow for socket connections to that game for sure. So that's actually a very good point as well. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it simple for now. I think this kind of describes everything it needs to be though. We filter option, maybe I think if possible, the ability for players to join the group from spectating if they want to be a part of whatever they are watching. If this is a large change, please make a new ticket for it. So it's a low effort for the first part of this. The second part would probably be a high effort, but we'll put it in there for now. And we will attach candy post relevant. Wow, typing today is good. Where did that go? Option to make. Boom. Okay. Oh, there is, I forgot to do this. We'll do this after we get through these tickets. I think that a couple of the branches we started are working on open candy tickets, so I want to go through and make sure we update those as well while we're here. Okay, that is going to be a planned. All of these sunballs, I wonder who those could be. Yeah, I see what you're saying. He wants to watch. Yeah. Similar ticket for allowing discoverable or public groups, we'll say. Private games to be displayed in the live games tab. Hi, Griff. Has been submitted internally. Not yet been assigned to a developer. Will be included. Okay. Create a way to back out of minigames and spectated games in the queue page. This is kind of what Soju King was asking a minute ago. If I'm queued for a ranked game and a spectating game or playing a minigame, I have to let one finish before I can exit back without losing my spot. Correct. Yeah, so they basically just want a way to go out of the game that they're currently in if it's a minigame or they're spectating, so that they can stay in the queue but not have to leave the queue and re-enter the queue and lose their wait time, which is, I think, reasonable. So I do want to check to make sure we don't have a ticket like this already. So let me just take a quick dive into the tickets and look for something to spectate. I think maybe like see a ticket for this. Check return joiner. No. Nope, I guess we don't have a ticket for it. So let's make that together. Allow players to return to joiner from minigame spectate without losing wait time. Players who are spectating a live game and or in a minigame but would prefer not to do so while waiting for a casual or ranked game are currently forced to return to the home page via the exit button, losing their wait time in the process, or they must wait for the game to end. I heard my name a few minutes ago. Yep, I was just wondering how high the viewer counts get on the championship streams for MLTP, if it's like the 70s, 80s, 90s. Have we crossed 100 the last couple seasons? I was just trying to remember what the actual number was, because Grant mentioned that if you allow those private games to be spectated alongside all of the public games, we only allow 8 socket connections. You can't have more than 8 spectators on those, so you wouldn't be able to fit everybody in anyway. So, yeah, just curious. But spectating a live game minigame, prefer not to do so. So the hard question with this one is where do you put that indicator? So if we just go to a replay for visual's sake, if you're spectating a game or you're in a mini game, you've got the exit button up here, obviously. But what do you, like, you need to keep that exit button. That needs to continue existing. So do you, like, where do you put, I guess we've got the little indicator below it already. We could just change what that indicator is for spectating. Like you would turn it into like a, actually this is a good example, like one of these kinds of arrows that shows like out, like you're leaving, but it's not an, because the problem is you're also exiting. You're exiting the game that you're in, but you're not exiting the joiner. It's a different kind of exit. So it's hard to think of a, what do you call that? Ignore me being bad at skee ball, please. You'd have to say like return to joiner, but that's a lot of words for a single button, so that's no good. I don't know. Kind of want to look at Font Awesome for a second and see if there's an easy icon we could pick. Font Awesome. For those who don't know what that is, this is just like a free icon thing. Well, there's also paid stuff. We use the free stuff. Like arrows. Like I want an arrow that means I'm going back to the joiner, but I'm not going all the way back to the home page. That's kind of cute. I guess you could have an eye for spectating, and it's like a crossed out eye, so you're stop spectating. That would kind of indicate that you're not leaving the game, you're just stopping the spectate that you're in right now. So I think that would work for spectating. Replace the last game icon with for spectators an eye with a slash through it. For mini games, I'm stuck on mini games because you're in a game, you want to not be in that game, but you do want to be in a different game. Is there anything with circles that we can work with? Something like this where you're going back, but you're not leaving. I don't love it. Can I live with it maybe? But I don't love it. Do we show the next game? Oh crap, if we already show the next game thing in mini games, then I don't think we have an option here. I think it might be that we can offer this for spectate, but we can't offer it for mini games. If that's the case, because you would need like a third icon below that. Now you got one icon that means leave the whole thing, one icon that means stay in this game but don't go anywhere afterward, and a third icon that means leave this game now but don't leave the joiner, just go back to the joiner. I just don't know if there's an easy way to show that with just icons. I think we start to lose a lot of meaning at that point. Well, let's confirm that actually happens before anything else. If I queue up real quick for a mini game, just to see does that button actually show up in the top left or not, because that will decide how I. Yeah, I definitely want to be. I don't want to be in drop down territory for a live game. That is a bad idea. we go. Any mini game. Oh no. Why are there other people here? What? Okay, yeah, so that shows up already, so that's not going to work at all. So what else could I put here that would say I don't want to be in this game anymore, but I do want to be in another game? I don't think that an icon like that exists. All right, that's good enough for me. So yeah, we're gonna keep this as spectate only for now, just because I can't I can't think of a solution just yet. So spectating live game, but would prefer not to do so while waiting for casual ranked game. Are currently forced to return to the home page, or they must wait for the current game to end. A similar request was received for mini games, but due to the last game icon, this is likely not feasible. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. That would be an enhancement, and probably a low effort. In truth, it's the showing it that was the hard part, not the building it part. Okay, relevant candy post. Did I actually answer this ticket, or did I just do something completely different from what the ticket was asking me to do? No, they said spectate. Okay, yeah, okay, good enough. Relevant candy post. What was that, Grant? Title is still minigame. Spectate if you're limiting the feature to just... Oh, yep, thank you. Okay. Similar ticket for allowing spectators to return to the joiner. Mini games will need to be handled separately. I can never spell the word separately. Is that right? Yeah, I do have autocorrect. Okay. In the future, due to complexity. Okay. Special mode for actually new players so they don't quit too soon. The learning curve for this thing, help to grow player base if there was serious attention paid to new player. I mean, we're trying, man. We're trying. Did I mention that the new player indicators was almost ready? I think that was last week's stream. I mentioned that. Yeah, new player indicators are on the way. Yeah, so they're saying they want simpler maps with other new players. This is not really possible just because we don't have enough new players to fill up games amongst themselves. This is not a bad idea, but unfortunately, due to low counts of actual new low experience players, a queue reserved for them would not be able to sustain games. This may be revisited as player counts increase in the future. Received AFK warning after the game was over. I think we have a ticket for this one. Let's see if I can find that real quick. So we have two different tickets for this. We've got one where a player was banned and then receives an AFK note for it. If we look at the end of the game here, I think it says that they were AFK. Oh no, this happened during the game. When was this? Just go to the mod view. Okay, players banned there. And then later on, that same player was marked as AFK after they were banned. So the player's not in the game anymore. They get the AFK message. So that's not quite the same thing. Here we go. This is what we're looking for. AFK warning comes when game state is ended. So when a game ends, the AFK timer of a player has no check for game state. So they get the, yeah, okay. So that's exactly what this person's talking about here. So a ticket for this already exists, but we can link this issue is currently tracked internally, has not yet been assigned to a developer, will be included when time allows. And let's just get this linked to the ticket that we have, and then we'll be good to go. Oh, it's in the bug reports one. Okay. Received AFK. Let's say relevant. I can never spell the word relevant. This is terrible. Relevant candy post. Boom. Comment. Done. Hopefully I read their thing right. Yeah. Okay. So that is all of those. What did I say we were going to do next? We've got candy board done. Not going to worry about the mirror board this week. We've got, oh, we're only 45 minutes in. Look at us. What else? Oh, Future Group Friday questions. I did get one question I wanted to talk about. Here, let me just clean up some tabs real quick. Okay. So the question was, why did the player Amadio lose so much elo in this game? So we've got Amadio, and they ended the game, and they lost 27 for that game. Okay, so for starters, just pet peeve, it's not elo. We don't use an elo system, it's a skill score system, so it's not quite the same. But the reason this player lost so much in this game is because this player is still in their placement games. So if we find that player real quick, and we look at their replays, and we filter for, I don't need to filter, it's all here. All ranked games. This game happened January 14th. So if we go back to January 14th, that puts us on Wednesday. So, well, they have a good number of ranked games. This is before season, no, this is all after the season started. Huh. That is kind of strange, actually. I thought this player was going to be pretty early on in their ranked career. It looks like they started here, and they've got over almost 100 games. Not quite 100, but that's a good number of games. I think that the reason this happened is because the player was in the top 2 of their skill score and they had a very low performance, so they got dinged because they were 56% advantage. So they were expected to win this game pretty confidently. Not pretty confidently. They were expected to win, though. They were in the upper half of the skill score for their team, but they were in the lower bracket for all of the statistical checks that we run. So they probably got a pretty big ding. about this number probably for losing in the first place. No, it was probably bigger than this, because what happened was this player, I'm kind of thinking on my feet here. I think that what happened was these players had all the stats, so they were all given reduced adjustments because they performed so much better than their team average, because this player's stats were so low that they dragged the team average down. So all 3 players were better than them statistically, which means that for all 3 of their teammates, they lost additional skill score because their teammates were stealing it from them, essentially. I think, just trying to justify that with the numbers that I'm seeing here. I know that we also have a check for if you're like in the top of your team and you perform poorly, you lose more than if you're at the bottom of your team and you perform poorly, because you're expected to be leading the team. This is not just statistical, there's more to it than just the hard stats that you see here, but there's also the opposite, where if you are in the lower half and you perform really well, you get more of a boost than somebody who's at the top of your team and performs really well, because you were expected to perform well if you were at the top. You were not expected to perform well if you were at the bottom. So the opposite of that happened. They were expected to perform well, but they did not. They were expected to win the game, and their teammates really took all of the statistical adjustments that there are available. So I think that's the combination of those 3 things. 27 still feels pretty extreme for that. So I am going to forward this along to Orchid, and I can probably pull the logs for this as well. I'll do that after this stream. I can't pull that up because it's got some sensitive information on it, but I want to see kind of the pre and post of this game. Actually, maybe I can look at it on the side real quick, as long as it feels like that punishes O players a lot more, since O is a lot more boom bust. Maybe. Yeah, I haven't looked at it that closely. This is something that I didn't spend a whole lot of time on, but that wouldn't shock me to learn. Although I don't feel like we've seen that in practice either, so hard to say. Let me see if I can pull up a log real quick just for fun. Chicago 5 on the 14th. And this was the player Amadio. Doesn't exist. What am I missing? Oh, I'm on the 14th, that's why. No, 14th, what? What am I missing here? Oh, wrong log, okay. Amadio. Okay, here we go. So we've got they only played 2 games, so I should be able to find this pretty quickly. Oh, they were on a losing streak. That's what we missed. They were on a losing streak. So let's find that game again. It was the 14th at 1:43 p.m., which is Wednesday. At 1:43 p.m. Aha! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They were on a 6-game losing streak. They lost their 6th game in the 6-game losing streak, and they had a poor statistical performance, and they were expected to be a standout on their team because they were in the top half of it. That combination makes a lot more sense now. So if you don't want to lose 27 points off your skill score in a single game, don't be favored to win the game by 56% and lose your 6th game in a 6-game losing streak while expected to be a standout player on your team statistically. We got there in the end. Good work, team. Okay. So yeah, 27 does make a lot more sense with that context. It still feels a little aggressive, but not nearly as aggressive as previously. So that system we added in was to help get players ranked more appropriately. If you're losing 6 games in a row, especially favored games, there's a good chance you're ranked a little bit too high. So it's going to start to accelerate your decline until you're able to pull a win out and change that. So hopefully that answers the question of whoever asked that. But yeah, I think I'm pretty satisfied with that answer. So if anyone has any more questions about that or a different one you'd like me to take a look at later, feel free to reach out. But that is good enough for me for now. So moving on from that, the rest of our time today should be spent on our feature building session. We have a bunch of people just joined the stream, so if anyone has questions about what we've been doing today, feel free to ask. But we're going to wrap up with tagpro.eu. So just to talk about this one more time. Tagpro.eu has been around for a very, very long time. It was originally created, it was created by Ronding, a player who is not active as far as we can tell in the community anymore, but the site's still up. Originally, this was a script, and players needed to have the script running on their profiles. If they had the script running, it would save raw data from their games to this website. Since then, a couple of years ago, we integrated the saving part of that. So players no longer need the script at all. Every game that happens is automatically uploaded to tagpro.eu. Just for those who don't know, if you go to your replay, you'll see 4 different buttons here. This plays it, obviously, this downloads it, this saves as your favorite, but this little eye takes you to tagpro.eu, and you can see, ooh, look at me. Oh, it's skee ball. Okay. But yeah, that is what that is. So the concern right now is that this website has existed for a very long time. The community is very accustomed to having it, to using it. You can find your replays through it. You can share matches. You can share data. You can crunch numbers if you want to make just like fancy stats and whatnot. So we're somewhat reliant on this website with a creator who is no longer really around. We've been trying to get in touch with Ronding to add some other things to the site for a while now. Haven't heard back. So the concern is if Ronding decides to stop paying for this server, we kind of just have nothing. We're left without it because we don't host any of the data that runs on this site. So what we want to do at some point, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is how do we integrate this site into tagpro without losing everything. And luckily he is very open about the raw data. You can get the whole thing. So we have the ability to get that data and to plug it into anything that we make. But what do we plug it into? What does that look like? How does that work with the rest of the site? Because you could keep it as its own separate website, but if we're going to be spending the time to work on it and to have it be a part of tagpro, why would we not want to integrate it with the rest of the site? So that's what we're going to talk about today and see if we can come up with some solutions there. The first thing that we probably want to think about is the replay page in front of me right now, because stats and replays are somewhat intertwined. Do I manage tagpro League? No, tagpro League is managed by Poetic Alto, who is still active, thankfully. But if you did not know, tagpro League, and just for those who don't know, tagpro League is focused on competitive only. It's got standings and rosters, and stats is the biggest thing that it's used for. So you can see the stats for each week of Major League Tagpro broken down into some different categories. You've got offensive stats, defensive stats, and different things like that. So this is hosted, like I said, by Poetic Alto. He is still active, but more recently, Tumblewood made tagpro reference, which is it tpref.com? Fly, help me out here. TP. What's the actual domain for tagpro reference? Tagpro-reference, thank you. So tagpro League has some problems. It was made in a language that nobody really uses for coding anymore a long time ago by people who were not really willing to finish the problem that they had created. So it's been sort of a mess of code ever since it was created. So Poet's the only one who really knows how to maintain it. So more recently, Tumblewood took it upon himself to build a new site, Tagpro Reference, which is, according to what I've heard, much better than anything else that we have. And so that is in a better place now. The only thing really missing from Tagpro Reference would be the what was that? Only thing missing would be older games. Like there were some what's the right word for this? I guess bad entries in older data where you have games that happened back in like season 12 or something that are like the wrong names are in them, or maybe some stats are missing from them. So this is pretty close to being ready to replace Tagpro League, but it's still missing some of that older data that would need to happen before it could really be a true replacement. But to your point, Sampless Water, yes, it would be nice to have all of those integrated. The reason that this one is a lower priority than tagpro.eu is because this is league specific, and I've talked about this before. I don't love talking about it, but it's true. Leagues are technically an unofficial thing. They're not like a core part of the game. They have their own people working on and maintaining them. The game of Tagpro is not responsible for maintaining the infrastructure of the league, which has ups and downs, has pros and cons. But for tagpro.eu, that is something that we have directly integrated with the site. You've got those links on the site. So if all these links ended up going to data does not exist anymore, that is a loss on our part. So that's why we would start with tagpro.eu. If we do, and hopefully we do get to the point where the leagues can be integrated with the game, that would change that answer. We would then start to think about how do we bring those in. But that'd be a down the road concern for now. Tagpro.eu is more pressing at the moment. So, but good points to be bringing up. I definitely want to keep those in the back of my mind as we go, because however we bring tagpro.eu in, that could probably be a staging ground for tagpro reference stuff. So back to replays though. We've got a lot of data. We've got replays. How do those coexist? That's the big question right now, because you have a link from here to tagpro.eu. You've got a link from tagpro.eu back to the replays. If you look in here, you can see this UUID line takes you directly to a replay for that game. So they're sort of integrated in terms of one directs to the other, which directs back, but they're not unified in any way. And so part of the concern with this much data is how do you show it in a way that's actually user-friendly and is not just like overwhelming? Because if you decided like, oh, you could just have all of that data show up when you click on a replay, like it just doesn't work. You have 50 replays on a page. You can't put more data into this. It's already got, frankly, more than some people want it to have. You've got all, I don't know. So I think starting this is the hardest part. Finishing it, probably not as bad. You just need to figure out how you're gonna put it all in the same place. So when you click the eye, you said pop up when you click the eye. Would that be like on your screen? It's like a modal that pops out. Do you scroll through that? Can you share that with people like directly to the modal? Because a lot of the things that happen with tagpro.eu is people want to be scraping that data. They want to be sharing that data. They want to be linking other people that data. So if you look at the info hubs, for example, the info hubs have links to all of the tagpro.eu links from that season. This is another league thing. If you go to the scores and more tab, they've got links to each individual game that happened with all the details from that game, etc. So what is that? Yeah, so if it was just a pop-out, you wouldn't really have the ability to share that, right? Maybe you could. I don't know. Maybe how would that look to you? I want to make a document for this just to throw some thoughts down. I'm probably not going to solve this problem today, but I do want to get the conversation going. Does it exist with replays, separate from replays? Because your other option that you have is you say, okay, forget the replays page. We're going to keep that as it is, not going to touch anything on the replay page. And then you add another tab that's like stats. And then in your stats page, you've got a similar list of everything, but instead of a replay, it's got a link to a stat page or something. And so I still don't love that because, thank you Dragon Feast for the follow. What you don't want to do is have a bunch of data that is the same data but exists in two different places, because that really confuses people. It's just not good practice from a web dev standpoint. So you want the shared data to be in one place, but you don't want it to be so much data that it's not approachable. So something that has been suggested in the past was, do you keep this whole replay tab like it is, but if you click on one, instead of a pop out, you have like a drop down kind of thing where that replay becomes expanded and the other ones still exist around it. But then you've got an issue with like giant pages, because think about the size of these tagpro.eu matches. Look at the scroll bar over here. Like this goes for a very long time. And now maybe there's a point to be made there. Is this too much data? Do you not have all of this be available? But people want this data for certain things. Like they use some of these timestamps for deciding things in the league at times. So it's, I don't know, it's tricky. It's a tricky problem. So the next thing, we can come back to that. I don't need to solve that right now. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the data itself. Do we, in a league, question mark, but rename. Is it a league tool or not? Yeah, it was used by the leagues originally. We realized it was a really good thing to have in general, so it became a thing that all games have now, not just league games. So it's not, it's kind of it's both. It's for the leagues, but it's also not for the leagues. And so the leagues need it for certain things, and we don't want to take away that functionality, but we also don't want that to be the only thing deciding how we build this. So Grant says rename replays to game history, and then you can get replays or stats through there, which is somewhere else where IDK. Probably the precursor to whatever in-house. And yeah, so that's the good point, Fly, is that the stats that we have now are mostly summarized here. But if you look at Tag Pro League, you can see a couple stats that we don't have, like things like grabs per minute, things like hold per minute, flaccid percent, spark percent. Those are stats that we don't actually collect in the game, but you can pull that data out of a tagpro.eu link, and you can create those stats based on the data that is contained in here. So it's stuff that would be nice to start to bring to the game. There's more that you can do with than just these things. It's been an ongoing conversation behind the scenes. So you want somewhere that's not just the in-game leaderboard where you can start to show some of those things. Going to ask, what was the minimum viable version of ... you wanted to actually show? What is ... I guess asterisk. Is something censoring you guys? It's getting set. What? I thought I removed all the filters. I don't know, man. So what is the minimum viable version of tagpro.eu to actually show? Yeah, I guess that's fair. I amend my idea if the eye just opens a new tab with the data hosted in a unique link. So you'd say that keep the replay as it is, name replay to game history, and then instead of this linking to an external website, it just links to a nameless tab in TagPro. So you would go to tagpro.qualities.com/stats, and then that's a thing already. Okay, well, it wouldn't be stats, but I don't know what that is. Hopefully it's not important. That's the joiner stuff. That's joiner information. Okay, good to know. If anyone wanted that exists. So it would take you to more like how replays work. They open a new tab for that replay. Like a new tab, like a completely different tab. Like this opens a new tab like a replay does, and that new tab, instead of being a replay, is your tagpro.eu stat page. I can live with that. And then you'd have to have a unique URL here. So I guess you could still use that UUID that we have. You can see it in the bottom left corner there. You've got that UUID. Actually, the stream doesn't show that, sorry. And then that UUID would be in the URL of the replay tab, but it would be a stat tab instead. And then you can share that directly. I think that... Do you want a summary and then a scoreboard section? Do you have different... so let's just write some of this down. Pop out stats into a new tab similar to what tagpro.eu does, but the link is instead hosted on the TagPro site. Then, do you offer multiple presentations of that data? You have the full timeline as seen now, then a snapshot of the game kind of thing with just highlights or important stats for easier sharing. Like you say, okay, I'm just going to send you this section. I'm not going to send you the whole thing. I just want you to see those stats. Boom, different link right there. Something easier, maybe. Do I have birds? My neighbor. Okay, I'm glad you could hear that. My neighbor got a freaking bird, and it's the loudest damn thing. He's waking me up every morning. I'm going insane with this bird. But yes, I do not have birds. My neighbor has a bird. I have thoughts on that. So, you mentioned might not want the entire history at the bottom. Can you make a version essentially summary? Yeah. So I think that covered that. This is weird for the music. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's the worst possible alarm that you don't set and just decides that you're going to wake up now. So, yeah. Thank you for validating that. Appreciate that. Anyway, so I think I like the idea of naming this from replays to game history, and then you'd have to have a different header here because all this data is still relevant. You would still use all of this to find the EU. It's not like you would need a separate drop down of games to find an EU versus finding a replay. It's the same. This is the games that you played. These are the games you played. This is what you want from that list. This is the information you're looking for. Here's a link to that information. Exactly the way it is now, just hosted on tagpro. But I like Grant's idea about the kind of snapshot of more interesting stuff. I want to explore that a little bit more. So link can use the same UUID replays rely on, just pointing to a different page with stats. Column could just be links, rename replays header to links. Let's see, does that work? What do we have in this list? We have a link to the replay. We have a link to the stats. We have a download link. I think that's fine. And then the favorite. It's not really a link, but it's not like it's hard to figure out what it does either. It's pretty self-explanatory when you click on it. So I think that works for me. Does all of the data that we have here stay the same? Is there anything we would need to add with that? Anything we need to remove? I don't love the team red-blue. I feel like it's kind of necessary, but meh. I'd like a free text filter for team. So if like your team name is MHGW or whatever, it would show up here. MSN, yeah. Just want to make sure we don't already do that, just for my own sake. Yeah, just red and blue. Okay. I haven't played a private game with names in a while. Oh, wait, hold on. Maybe we do that. Let's look up fly. Oh wait, I can't see your private games here. Fly, you okay if I show your private games on this or no? You can say no, I just want to ask you before I do that. All right, no response is going to be a no, but I guess I can do my own if we need to. I just haven't played League in a while. I can? Okay, thank you. So mod view just shows all games, so private games are showing here. And yeah, it does show up like that. So it is what you were saying, where you can see it. But I wonder, can you not do that for yourself if you are you looking from a different account maybe? You can't? Okay, good. So that exists. Success. Oh, you can't filter on it. Oh. Okay, that's actually, it's a slightly different thing. That would just be its own request, I think, to have the ability to filter your own. Oh, that's what you were asking. Duh. Okay, so you're saying you want the ability to search this by free text, not the ability for that to have free text in it. Got it. Thank you. Let's make a ticket for that real quick. Because that would definitely be important, because that's actually a very good point. Functionality outside of these games with tagpro.eu, what else does the site offer that we would want to use? They have filtering by maps, they have filtering by players, they have filtering by teams, which is very important. So that's a really good thing to write down. Filter options present on tagpro.eu, but not tagpro replays. We've got filter by, we already do by player. Well, hold on, with player filtering, I'll come back to that in a second. Team name, map. I think we have map, but we don't have No, we do have custom map, I think. Yeah, you can do map. So you want basically the exact same thing as this, just for team name as well. Because this shows all the current maps in rotation or trial. And this shows the default team names. Or enter your own, and if something matches, you're good. That makes perfect sense to me. What I'm pausing on for a second with players is that we have the ability to search by player because you can go to a player's account and you can search through their replays. But tagpro.eu has private games, because if you're in a private group and you create a group and you play a game, whatever, if you look over here, there is a save analytics button. If you check this off, the game that you play is not saved to tagpro.eu. So players keep this on for leagues because they want those games to show up on tagpro.eu. But as we just saw with Fly's profile, even though those games are saved to tagpro.eu, other players cannot view those games on your profile because it's a private game, and private games are not displayed on the profile. So I think what we would need to do is modify the save analytics button so that it allows that game to be present for everybody. That's probably a bad idea though, because you might want a private game that nobody else sees. Are we going too far for privacy here? I feel like we might be going too far for privacy here, because that's just... I don't see how I can't search my own game. I don't see how I can't search my own game by team. Well, you'd be able to search your own, but like you wouldn't be able to look up. Yeah, Fly with the very interesting script. It adds a button to your profile page where you can just click this button and the profile and the player names go away. Why would I look up someone else? Well, I'm trying to think about what do like league administrators do if they're trying to find a game that just happened. They would go to tagpro.eu and they would search by team name. But if all of those players were playing in a private game, they wouldn't be able to find that game because they didn't play in that game. So even though analytics were saved, they wouldn't be able to access the EU until a different person who was in that game sent them that link. So that would be bad for the league. So how do we allow players to have their replay shown publicly even though it was a private game? Yeah, this is actually a bigger problem than I was anticipating, because if you have the current replay tab, all of these games are public games. If they do custom names, it auto checks analytics. No, that's different. Unless I'm misunderstanding. That's this is just about sending it to tagpro.eu. Whatever you do with the names doesn't change that. This is completely so what we're trying to figure out is if you have games that you want other players to be able to find, and tagpro.eu does not exist for the sake of the conversation, you need a way for them to opt in to that game being on their profile. And I think that the Save Analytics button could do that, but I'm thinking about a case where you have a game. Follow the scenario right now. Say I want to play a scrim with my teammates, and I don't want the other team to know that that scrim happened or to be able to watch a replay of that scrim. I would check Save Analytics, and I would not save that game to tagpro.eu. So that game would not show up on tagpro.eu. But after that game happens, I would still be able to go to my own replays and watch that replay back because it was a private game that I played in. So I still have access to that, but nobody else does. But if you take that exact same scenario and you say that it is a league game and you take away the fact that tagpro.eu exists. So now the Save Analytics button doesn't save it anywhere else. You're just saying I played in a private game. How do you differentiate between the private games that you want somebody else to see and the games that you do not want somebody else to see? Is it just that same button? You just change the name to display for everybody versus don't display for everybody? Like what's the difference there? It's I think it's the same thing. I feel like I'm missing a detail though. Because how do you yeah, because it's decided for the whole group. I feel like private stuff isn't really important. Someone's being no. Well, I have to say I'm a little biased here. I think we won the Mooper Ball season 21 because I did that. We scrimmed a bunch of times on Willow and we were terrible at it. So we got a bunch of novice players and we scrimmed once with a public game and we like kicked the crap out of them on that game. And then the other team didn't pick Willow because of that, even though we were garbage at it. And they admitted that's why they didn't pick Willow. So I still respect the gamification of that. So a little bias there, but to your point, who are we really saving by hiding these? That's, I mean, I think so too, but it's still funny. I'm kind of torn. Where'd my group tab go? I thought I had a group tab. So replace the Save Analytics button with Display on Profile, maybe? Or Make Public. Having public results stats feels not as bad as not having public replays for that kind of thing. I agree. But just because I've been rambling for long enough now, if we replace the Save Analytics button with a Make Public button, and if that Make Public button is selected, your game appears in the All Public Games list. It's still type private, so maybe just All Public Games, but has private. Need a different name for that. But that would still grant the agency to show or to not show your games without losing anything. You could have it on by default, so you could just disable it if you like. Maybe here's a better example of a use case for this. If we are testing an upcoming event and there's a secret map that we don't want players to know about on that event, but we want to make sure that the map works properly, we would want to hide that replay from everybody else. How's that for the comp settings toggle? I feel like we need to get rid of the comp settings toggle because that's just gonna, like, we already use presets now. Nobody uses this to get the competitive settings. This isn't even what the competitive settings are at this point. It doesn't have clutch time. It doesn't have no kiss. So that's not even, I don't think anyone uses that button anymore. We can probably just kill that button and be fine. So yeah. I'm gonna go with this. We're gonna say replace group button, Save Analytics with display publish game, and then games which are not published are visible only to players who were in that game. Player profile replay replays on the player profile looking at someone else's profile. Display any private games which were played with publish game enabled. Yeah, okay. I think that keeps things pretty consistent with how they are now. It would still be the same thing. Like right now, if you play a private game, you can still send that replay to somebody else. They can still watch that replay. There's no reason to change that. I think that can continue to exist as it is. So that's fine. Then back to sorry, all these bots keep joining my stream. back to the filtering stuff. Sorry, I got way down the rabbit hole on that one. So we want the ability to filter replays by name of the team. I think that would work because now you have the team name, enter a custom one, and then that would link you to all of the games where they had published games selected. So it would still show all the same way the tagpro.eu does. It would show all of those games with that team name as long as that team had selected published game. Because if they didn't select published game, tagpro.eu wouldn't have had it. The public list of replays would not have it. So that matches the functionality there. You have filtering by player, which you can find on the player profile. You can go to their replays. Yeah, okay. The one thing beyond that that is a little bit different is that tagpro.eu has these filters at the bottom where it's just page numbers, whereas the site replays has filtering by date ranges. Do we like one of those better than the other? Is there a reason to prefer one or the other? I think I like the date ranges better because at what point are you like, yeah, I don't think there's any point where I want page 10. Like that's never going to be more important than I want April 15th, 2025 kind of thing, right? Porque no los dos? Well, the porque no los dos is that we don't have, we don't fetch all of the games by default just for a data management standpoint. Like you only fetch the first like 200, I think it is. And then if you request more of them, then we go back and request those. But it saves us from having a player who's played 30,000 games and then we try to fetch all of them at once to know how many pages there are. It's just, there's probably a way to do this. Bash would have a good answer to this where you can check the number of files without actually returning all of them or documents. It's a little over my head here, but we could probably manage it. I just don't think we need to manage it for at least for the initial implementation. There wouldn't be anything to gain from doing that. So yeah, that's fine. Team name, we got map. That's the other one, map. How do you filter by maps? We can do that. You can do custom maps. That would still, so if we did this and you looked up OTI Jardum, just for a simple example, that is a map that exists in ranked, but if it was a private game that was published, that would also show up in this list. I think that's fine. Animals drive like they play TP. Aggressive, no brakes. Oh god. Please use your brakes. Okay. You said replay header name to links. What else does tagpro.eu do? Oh, server. We have that, right? Can you filter by server? Do we want to filter by server? Is that an important thing to be able to do? I feel like anything that we have a drop down for should probably have a filter for it. But yeah, I think we should do it just because who cares about, I don't know, maybe somebody does. Maybe they're like, oh, I want to see the last time that I played on the old Radius server or something. They want to look it up. You might as well. It's an easy thing to add filters for, so we should probably just do that. Trying to figure out the last OCE public game. Yeah, there you go. Boom. Use case. Radius. Radius still has more matches played. Damn. That's wild, actually. 1 million. Pain. When was the last Oceanic game? I guess it was just me on that mini game, but that probably didn't save any analytics. I saw this the other day and almost brought it up. Bring back pie. Bring it back. Lost its whimsy. It's hard to argue against that. Alright, what else? What else? What else? What else? What are threads? Ah! What is this? Subreddit stuff? I don't think we need this. Anyone think we need this? I think I lean towards this is not necessary. Is this just anything where tagpro.eu is linked? It's gotta be. Interesting. Yeah, that we can say goodbye to. I did just go here and enjoy Tumble's stat post about pups. Yeah, I think you can find that on Reddit if you need to. Filter by region, we probably don't need that. Teams, we got players, we got maps, we got matches, we got home, we got, because this doesn't have anything that we need. So the last thing missing that tagpro.eu has that we don't really have is data export. And we do have a little bit of this. We've got the, what's the name of that thing? Sorry, I need to look this up real quick because I don't want to butcher it. We have a page where you can go to see raw data from something. Replays, I think. I wish Bambi was here. He knows what this is. It's a page they use for scraping data. I just want to make sure it has the right data. Because if we remove the ability for players to scrape, that would be kind of problematic for things like the post that Tumblewood just put up, like the stat scraping stuff. I thought we just added was it void maybe? Here it is. Replays slash. There we go. This page here has replay data for all the games that have happened. So what does this have that tagpro.eu? Sorry, what does this not have that tagpro.eu does have? For those who can't see the URL here, it is tagpro.qualities.com/replays/data is what I'm looking at right now. I'm not a drunk, but this game has galvanized me as such. Such game, imagine someday a special rank for drunkers. Okay, noted. So what does tagpro.eu have that this page does not? Let's look at an EU. That'll answer our question for us. Yeah, in truth, I would like that too, Grant. I don't have a good log of all of these, but this has players and when they join. There's no actual stat here. This doesn't have any stats at all. Go full Tron with it. So this is just player data, whether they finished the game, what their skill score adjustments were, I think, in a ranked game. Let's find a ranked game to confirm that. It's a ranked game. We've got... Maybe there's a standing request to add the skill score adjustments to this, maybe. Yeah, it's just got when they were in the game and out of the game. Final score. Yeah. So this would not be the right place to have EU data. That would have to be on its own page. So that, let me just write that down. That's a thing we would need to would need a data endpoint for scraping EU data, similar to that. Okay. Last question, and I think we'll call it here, is what do we actually call these stat pages? Do we call them EUs just because they've been called for years, or do we come up with a new name for the integrated EUs and call that good enough? feel like at this point they've been Call of Duty for so long that you kind of have to just keep calling them, but it would be good to say, okay, this is a thing that we used to have that's Call of Duty. Now we have a new thing with a different name that is similar to that, but it's not exactly the same, and that would help. Man, Grant, we are on the same page. New name, so it's not confusing going forward. That's just a TLD. What is a TLD? We got past cat stats. We can go forward. Top level domain. Yeah, okay, that is true. So, any fun names for experimentation? Save the whimsy. Fly, where are you? I'm drawing a huge blank on possible names here. Fast stats. I got nothing. Really have nothing. Screw it. We'll bring back cat stats. Dog stats. Do not type this. Man. All right, that's going to be the prize question for the next week. Think of a better name for the stat page that's not just the stat page, please. Stats. Nope. I got nothing. We're past 90 minutes. I'm going to leave that standing question. That is the thing I want you to think about. Can you start having a discussion topic of the week question on the Reddit post? Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do, actually. Discussion question of the week. What to name the replacement page for tagpro.eu when integrated? Not cat stats. Game macro view. That describes the thing. It definitely is not whimsy. So Fly and Grant might object, but it's better than anything I have so far. So that's the one to beat. Game macro view. If you can beat that, then we'll go with it. So I think that's gonna wrap up what we got this week. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything that I was supposed to talk about. We got through the dev updates. We forcing circle sphere references. Yeah, we could definitely fix something round. Yeah. Got through the development updates. We got through, oh, there was one thing I wanted to talk about real quick, which was some small other issues that I had created based on the meeting that we had. One of them I already talked about. It was adjusting the timing for voiding players at the start of ranked games, reducing the timer there. But we also wanted to put in a fix for, where did this go? Oh yeah, improvements to the post-game adjustments. So we wanted to say at the end of replays, if someone's on a win streak, show that win streak here. So they have a little fire flare, and then whatever their win streak is, so that it keeps growing, they can keep seeing that and showing it off. And then the other thing was if you move up a tier. So if you're in 2-1 and you win that game and you go to 1-3, we wanted a little bit more of a highlighting or accentuation, whatever the word you want to pick is, like showing, hey, this player just moved up a tier. That's kind of cool, without having to put like a chat message, putting something that's a little more exciting for them to visualize next to it. Hitting a snowflake with someone next to the yeah, really highlighting there on a 6-game losing streak by putting a poop flare or something there. Yeah, maybe not. But we wanted to show off, if someone's doing really well, some more presentation of the fact that they're doing well in game. And then the other thing we wanted to add was oh yeah, it was just talking about standardizing the end of game quitters. So if you quit right before the game ends, sometimes that's handled as a void, sometimes it's handled as no adjustment. We wanted to standardize that so that it's mostly going to be a void, but occasionally, in some rare cases, you can still get the win if you, like, your internet gave out right before the game ended and you won the game, stuff like that. So those tickets did go in. without the stream being live. So I just wanted to make sure those were communicated. So that should be everything that I wanted to talk about this week. Now, just a reminder to anybody, if there are any questions you would like me to answer on stream, just like the game in front of us, there is a form that is pinned in the Twitch chat right now that will also be present on the Reddit post. It will also be present in the YouTube description. So feel free to fill that form out. If I remember, I will go through that question on stream and hopefully give you an answer that makes sense. So that's all I got for now. I will still be back next Friday as usual, 1 p.m. So thank you everyone for tuning in. And that's all I got. So enjoy the rest of your Friday. Have a nice weekend, and I will see you all later.